last lap. You can do it. It's 4.7 seconds. 5.6 seconds. It's a one of a kind. Only the DTM. Yes, man, you did it. Thank you, guys. Go, 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 go! Yeah!
So here we are then in the sunshine. This is Lausitzring and qualifying for race 4 in the DTM 2015. Doubly adrenaline, doubly excitement, doubly action as we get 2 races across each DTM race weekend. And one of the extraction machines proves a backdrop for us in this mining area that the Lausitzring circuit is situated in, this 3.4 kilometre circuit. Big crowd here to enjoy the motorsport offering here this weekend, which includes not only DTM and Porsche Carrera Cup, but also some motorbikes as well. Alongside me is David Addison, and welcome to day 2 of this DTM festival.
Welcome to another dramatic 20-minute qualifying session, this new format for this year with standalone qualifying and races on each day. Today's race is the longer of the two, 60 minutes plus a lap. Qualifying though remains the same. So far, out of 3 qualifying sessions, we have had 3 different pole sitters, but always they've driven an Audi.
And the race yesterday was very Audi front-ended, wasn't it? Supreme victory for Jamie Green, who was hampered by not only non-functioning DRS, but also a non-functioning voice, which made communication back to the team, as he said to us at breakfast this morning, very difficult.
He sounded a bit like a Dalek, didn't he, at times, because there was the distortion of the radio, plus a very croaky voice, the absence of DRS, and in the end, Jamie said it was probably one of my most satisfying wins, because he had to force a way past. There was absolutely no team orders, because he could not communicate properly with the pit wall to make himself understood. So in the end, he thought, I'll just get on with this. And he did, and he worked really hard and made the move at the end of the pit straight and gained the race lead. His 2nd victory of the year. So having been knocking on the door for so long of success for Audi, it has finally started to come right and come regularly. Now, if you think back to Hockenheim, he won on the Saturday and he really struggled in qualifying on the Sunday and therefore struggled in the race. But he was the fastest in the warm-up this morning. So it looks as though the good run from yesterday may well be continuing.
And here then the results of the warm-up to confirm what David was saying. Jamie Green the fastest there, then it was Matthias Ekstrom, Eduardo Mortara,
Audi,
Nico Muller,
Audi,
before Gary Paffett, who yesterday, and in fairness, Gary had not had a lot of running, had he, because he had had fuel issues on the Friday, or fuel system issues on the Friday, and was perhaps disappointed with his qualifying and certainly disappointed with his race yesterday. Looking a lot better today.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure what happened yesterday, because it's not like Gary doesn't know his way around the Lausitzring. And at the end of the second free practice session, he was saying that they'd made big strides forward, the team had worked very hard and all of that, but it just never clicked in qualifying, and he struggled to make places in the race, as indeed lots of people struggle to overtake in the race. It's not an easy track on which to overtake. And then on the last lap, he was trying to find a way past Antonio Felix da Costa, who turned in on him, and Gary spun in avoidance. So it kind of all went from bad to worse anyway. But as you say, in the warm-up, he's looking very strong. Mike Rockenfeller yesterday was a little bit anonymous. He did work his way up into 9th by the end of the race, but he could be one to watch here. And Mercedes also yesterday had a bit of a mixed day. Pascal Wehrlein was the top finisher. Maxime Martin, who is a real star in BMWs, whether they're GT cars or DTM cars, he was the man that upheld the BMW on, even though he did drop back. He was running 5th for the bulk of the race on the back of Matthias Ekstrom. He ended up 7th because the top 2 Mercedes of Pascal Wehrlein and Robert Wickens got past him at the end. But BMW is having a pretty torrid time.
So Pascal Wehrlein and Robert Wickens, of course, ahead of Maxime Martin at the end. And something that you and I, and let's discuss this now, BMW didn't look brilliant yesterday, did they?
No, indeed, and Jens Marquardt is saying it is down to the fact they can't get the warmth in the tyres early enough in qualifying, and therefore they struggle to get the good laps in and then low down on the grid. But I don't really buy that, because last year's format of 3 short segments was still 3 short segments. So there's something else that's not quite right in there, I think, somewhere along the line. But anyway, we shall see what pans out in this qualifying session, for which the cars now are being released. And one to watch in this, I suspect, could well be Adrian Tombay, because he was the fastest driver of anybody through through the speed trap yesterday, which comes at the end of the pit straight down towards turn 1. Tombe is using this weekend a re-sealed engine. It is one that's been repaired after being in a damaged car at Hockenheim. The regulations say that's fine, you can repair an engine, it can be re-sealed, but the penalty for then using it again is that you take your first race from the back of the grid. So yesterday in qualifying, Tombe went out, did one installation lap and came back in. All that did was scrub in a set of tyres. Didn't matter what time he set, because he was always going to be at the back of the grid.
Absolutely.
What he's done is give himself another set of tyres over and above everybody else for this qualifying session.
So, him one to watch.
Potentially. The speed is there, and Adrian Tombe in the Playboy-backed Audi could well be one to watch around here.
Tombe, of course, now a London resident. As we look at Mike Rockenfeller in the Schaeffler Audi, former champion, of course. Showed brilliantly yesterday, that's for sure, and you know, was perhaps a disappointment for the Audi brand yesterday, because Audi being so dominant at the front of the race. See what Mike Rockenfeller can do in qualifying and indeed in the race that comes a little bit later today. So through sector 1 he goes, and as he makes his way around this Lausitzring circuit, David making the point that overtaking here is not easy. There are a couple of places where if you're particularly brave and perhaps a little bit cheeky, those are the places to do it.
But these cars with all the aero are not that easy, and what it doesn't have really, apart from turn 1, is a real stop-start sequence where you can sort of launch up the inside, dive into a hairpin, for example. Drivers like a flowing circuit, but sometimes that goes against overtaking. I suppose the hairpin off the banking is one possibility, but it's the obvious place.
Yes.
So if you know there's a car behind, you'll cover that move, of course, well in advance.
Well, we're watching Rocky then, who he did finish in the points yesterday, but P9.
And he was on pole in this equivalent session, wasn't he, at the first weekend at Hockenheim?
And as he can cross the line now, it'll give us at least a benchmark time to work with, which is a 1:19.643. Here comes Nico Müller. And the number 151 car, bear in mind, DTM this year, all the drivers are using permanent numbers. And he sets a 1:18.755 to go to the top of the table. Expect that to change significantly during the course of this session. Now, we await Adrian Tombe. So you see Pascal Wehrlein there through turn 1. That turn 1 is really, really very, very sharp indeed. And here is Tombe then, who by dint of the fact has an extra set of tyres for this session, was quickest through the speed traps, as David indicated yesterday. We were expecting good things from.
Yeah, I mean, the set of tyres doesn't necessarily give him the speed, but it does give him an extra run through this session, which might well prove to be important. He's also therefore got more opportunities to go for a time than the others have, because they don't want to be taking life out of the tyres which they will be using for the race. And don't forget that today's race is the one with the pit stop, so you need a good set of tyres for that second stint. Tombe briefly goes to the top of the times. I say briefly because we're in the early throes of this, and subsequent laps are bound to be a bit more rapid. There is Jamie Green, winner yesterday, and of course the championship leader, 10th career victory, and now the championship leader. And I know back in the UK there's going to be an awful lot of support. His brother Nigel, I think, is organising quite a gathering in the pub, isn't he, this afternoon, so they can all cheer Jamie and hope that he can score another victory. So the Rosberg team Audi then has yet to do a lap time, but he's just done the absolute best in the middle sector, so this ain't going to be shabby.
No, it isn't. And talking to his brother Nigel, I think he was competing last night. What Nigel did last night, but Green's a real racing family, aren't they? And Jamie Green doing a fantastic job yesterday, and as you say, not looking too shabby in qualifying thus far today, as he goes P1 with a 1:18.207, but expect those numbers to come down. But Jamie Green lays down the gauntlet already.
He does indeed. An 18.2 then is the lap time. Now, yesterday's pole was a 17.4 set later in the day. The warm-up this morning a 17.7. So these times are going to come down. There's no argument about that, but they've all managed to do a pretty decent banker. We've got still Tomczyk, Da Costa, Farfus, Blomqvist, Paffett, Vitoris, Mortara and Glock yet to do a time. Augusto Farfus was a retirement yesterday. He got caught up with Paul di Resta and did some damage to the front splitter of the car. Farfus says, I was hit by another car. Di Resta says Farfus drove into the back of me. Oddly, differing opinions from different drivers there. The net result was that the BMW was out early, having started at the back of the grid for an infringement in qualifying. Edo Mortara came here as the championship leader. He's now second in the standings, and he's just gone over the timing line to do his start-up lap, so he's onto a flyer now.
Mortara finishing the race P2 yesterday as the Audi Fest continued, didn't it, in race 1. So we'll see what Eduardo Mortara can do Muller is at the moment the quickest with a 1:18.203, but as you've indicated, those times are going to come tumbling down as we look at Edo Mortara on board now, and this is a fantastic shot on board as well through the tarmac here at the Lausitzring.
Yes, yesterday it was an Audi 1, 2, 3, 4 lockout, as you were saying. The last time a manufacturer did that was BMW in Austria last year.
Right.
Go back to Valencia 2011, Audi top 6.
Wow.
That was the dominant day.
Wow.
So they've got that to equal, never mind better. At the moment, it is Audi 1-2, green ahead of Nico Müller. Now, Edo Mortara is looking quick. First sector ain't bad. Second sector's not bad. Let's see where it puts him then at the end of his first flying lap here.
So the focus on his eyes then as he heads up towards the timing line. Oh, and Timo Glock.
A big off coming onto the back straight. Lost it on relatively cold tyres. He's not done a flying lap yet, so he's early into his cycle on those tyres, and that set of boots is not in good nick for the rest of the day.
No.
And he's also put gravel all over the road, and that's going to affect the next couple of laps of cars coming through.
So team radio.
It's a big, big lose, that, because look how far it travels.
Okay, in this lap then, in this lap.
Sort of indicated on the team radio. He didn't know why he got it, away.
I suspect it's just cold tyres, cold rear tyres. But, you know, Timo's an experienced driver, so it would have surprised him a little bit that if he thought that he had the grip level sorted out. Timo Scheider through there, and Timo is 15th fastest. Hurt himself, didn't he, in the first race at Hockenheim, but it's good that he's the double champion, back to proper pace. What have we had out of Matthias Ekstrom yet? He has just pitted, but he's 17th fastest. There he is, in fact, ahead of Timo Glock. And the reason that many of them are coming in now is because if there's gravel all over the road, there's no point in staying out. Let somebody else clean it for you.
Yeah, let someone else go out and be the sweeper for them.
Yeah.
So there is Glock, who gets the thumbs up from each corner of the car. It's down and released again.
It's not so much the tyres they're concerned about, it's any damage to the diffuser and the air end there that's going to be the concern. Blomqvist's car being pushed away in the background into the box, into the garage. He's 6th at the moment, Tom Blom, having had an off in the race yesterday. Glock down the pit lane and under the Aral Ultimate Arch back into the session on a new set of tyres, and he's the only one yet that's not done a lap time.
And what have we got? 11 and a half minutes of this session left.
Gary Paffett, the slowest of those that have been out and done a time yet. There's one other car that hasn't ventured out at all. I'm trying to work out which one it is. 23 have been out, 22 have done times, and 24 we've got. Max Goertz is the one, and he went off in the warm-up and damaged the front of his car. He got quite airborne, didn't he, and landed on the nose and would have done a bit of damage, and it may well be that that car is not yet 100%, or they are trying to save a set of tyres and send him out late in the session. On the basis that perhaps he would be near the back of the grid anyway. Just give him one run and keep a fresher set of tyres for the second stint in the race and try and do something trick on the strategy.
Fair. Well worked out, yes. It was quite dramatic, wasn't it, in the warm-up as he got airborne. Max Goertz, Mike Rockenfeller, currently P3. His Sector 1 wasn't brilliant, was it? Sector 2 a PB, but Mike Rockenfeller stays at P3.
Yeah, an 18.6 that by rights would have put him 13, 14 fastest, round about there. So it was an average lap, that, from Rocky. Having talked about Maximilian Goertz, he has now ventured out. Just as we get to the halfway point.
There is the, yes. Been given the script, haven't you, almost? Certainly very, very well on it. Looking at the Pascal Wehrlein car, he's currently 4th fastest for Mercedes-Benz with a 1:18.231. As we see Lucas Auer going down the pit lane, high from our vantage point here, and we look at the champion, Marco Wittmann. Had a bit of a torrid time of it yesterday, David.
Yes, he was in the wars even in Friday's rollout because he was alleged to have overtaken a car in the fast working lane of the pit lane. Then yesterday he was given a grid drop for blocking. He then had a damaged front left corner and a tyre issue that caused him to drop back. So, yes, it was one of those days to forget for the reigning champion, crowned champion here last year, where Pascal Wehrlein had his first DTM, one and only DTM victory. Now, Timo Glock has yet to do a lap time. Of course, he's going to be personal best, but he's 3/10 down in the first sector. He's half a second down in the second sector, so it is going to be a start-up lap. This don't expect anything terribly sparkling.
So he crosses the timing line now, and P22 is indeed nothing like startling.
No, but he's had a Bruno Spengler. That's the one consolation. And there's something odd about this man at the moment because Bruno Spengler ain't looking like the Bruno Spengler that he used to. There's something that either he can't get out of this BMW or there's a motivational issue, but I don't think that is the case because Bruno last year, we said, however difficult the situation, would always get the best out of the car. Remember how well he went at the Hungaroring, for example, and I'm just not seeing that in him at the moment.
No, that Hungaroring very much was the strategy, wasn't it? The race of two halves with the DTM as it was then, and yeah, you're right. There is some component not right in that combination of car and driver with Bruno Spengler.
Ex-Mercedes driver, and of course he came to BMW having, he felt, been sort of overlooked rather by the Mercedes management, won the championship for BMW, which was the best two-fingered salute he could give his previous employer. And it's just, certainly this year, thus far, not hooking up for him. Now granted, all the BMW drivers are struggling, but Bruno seems to be struggling more than some.
A fantastic onboard shot of him at work inside that BMW.
Your BMW interior doesn't look much like that, does it?
No, I regret to say it doesn't. nor does yours come to that.
Quite. Up to the timing line comes Spengler. Heads over the line any moment. The sectors are personal best, but he's 2/10 down and 2/10 down, and so in the end the lap time puts him second, and it was the last sector where it all really hooked up for him. So it didn't look that sparkling, did it? But knit the three sectors together, Spengler second, that is a good effort.
Do you think we've had some motivational effect there? So P2 for Bruno Spengler. Here is the current champion, Marco Wittmann. We've just seen the rough scene from the Max Goetz car being pushed back into the garage, having come out and then gone back in again. Meantime, we watched momentarily then the champion Marco Wittmann's car. Jamie Green leading this session, which has just under 7 seconds left, and there's some
7 minutes.
Sorry, 7 minutes left. There's some analysis going on there, wasn't there?
Yeah, the Racing Butt Manpay mechanics having a look at the tyres. RBM, which runs the BMWs of Augusto Farfus and Tom Blomqvist. At the moment, Blomqvist is 7th and Farfus is 9th. Not actually a bad effort, that, by the pair of them. Wittmann comes up over the timing line and improves to 13th, up from 15th. That's still a bit so what, isn't it, for the reigning champion. Maxime Martin is going out. So the very fast ginger-haired Belgian makes his way out on track. As you look at Pascal Wehrlein, who is currently 5th fastest, and he's down in Sector 1, but he's better in Sector 2, but he's still a 10th off the absolute best there. So this, I don't think, is going to be a stunner, but it'll be decent.
So here comes Pascal up towards the timing line. 1:18.376. Pascal Wehrlein doesn't improve on P5. Jamie Green leading the session with a 1:18.032, and we have just under 6 minutes left to run. To give you a roundup, it's Green, Audi, Spengler, BMW, Muller, Audi, Rockefeller, Audi, then Wehrlein, the car we see there, Mercedes, the top 5.
And Juncker, Danny Juncker, we've not yet mentioned, but he's 6th ahead of Blomqvist, and 8th and 9th. How about this for close? Tombay and Farfus, with the margin between them 0.02 of a second. Robert Wickens is currently 10th, and he's 15 thousandths ahead of Maxime Martin, who is about to go for a flying lap. Wickens has just rejoined the session, and there is Gary Paffett, who is 17th for Fred Vasseur's ART Grand Prix team, new to the DTM this year as the extra Mercedes team, and he's ready to go and try and haul himself up the order. 5 more minutes on the clock.
And that ART team, of course, running Gary Paffett and Lucas Auer. And where is Auer in all of this?
18th, just behind Gary. Yeah, 11 thousandths slower. So actually, they're evenly matched, perhaps wrongly, in as much as you would expect Gary, with more experience, to be much higher up the order. Wehrlein is about to go higher up the order with a personal best and an absolute best. 5th at the start of the lap. Where does he slot in at the end?
Here he goes to cross the line now. P3 for Pascal Wehrlein. So Mercedes then up into P3. Here comes Daniel Juncker-Deyer, P4. And so we have Audi, BMW, Mercedes now.
Yeah, one of each in the top 3, so that works out nicely, doesn't it? There's Marco Wittmann, personal best in the first sector. Christian Vittoris has just gone 6th. Suddenly Mercedes are looking good, and Ekstrom, who is 20th, has done the absolute best in sector 1. So now with 4 minutes and change on the clock,
it's all hotting up.
It's getting good, isn't it? So Wittmann will be the first one, but he's down in the middle sector. He's done a 19.6. So what's that cost him? About 2/10, I reckon that. Sector 1 is a 26.0. It's certainly going to be an improvement, this, but assuming the third sector hooks up well enough. Here he comes up towards the timing line, and 18.0 is currently the best. Jamie Green rejoining the session. Wittmann goes through, and the lap time, no, is not an improvement because the last sector was slow as well. But Ekstrom, I mentioned his absolute best. He's backed it up with a personal best. This could be pole, but he's 3/10 down in the middle. It'll be an improvement, but I don't think it's going to be top.
Okay, so it's going from P20 where he was. It's definitely going to be an improvement if he hooks it all up in the final sector, which he does, but P9, and actually that final sector wasn't brilliant, David.
No, it wasn't. But that's a funny sector because you've got a very slow sequence and then a very fast banked corner. So it's a quirky sector with lots of different things in there. Now, Robert Wickens, who is currently 13th, has done a personal best in the first sector. Middle sector was a little bit slower than he had been previously, though, so we'll see how he fares up to the timing line.
Well, if he hooks it all together in the final sector, let's see what Robert Wickens can do in terms of improvement from P13 as he goes to the timing line now. And it wasn't a very good third sector.
So no improvement, in fact.
No.
He was about 6/10 away from his earlier best as Edo Mortara goes through and goes 8th fastest. That is an improvement at an 18.234. Green, Spengler, Wehrlein, Juncker-Deyer, Müller, Vittoris, Rockenfeller, Mortara, Wittmann, Ekstrom is now the top 10. And that's Robert Wickens, in fact, having a moment, running very wide and kicking up the dirt and bouncing across the grass and showering the road with gravel. So a bit of a drama from Robert Wickens there.
Yes. Right, Gary Paffett out of the garage now, and Gary Paffett leaving it to very, very late in the session, isn't he? We've got just over 2 minutes left to run in this, the Euronics Mercedes. Now, of course, what Gary's going to encounter now in this final part of the session is a lot of traffic.
But Paffett's gone quicker in Sector 1 and Sector 2 than he had previously, so the Mercedes is on a mission, that's for sure. He's a 10th off the best in the first sector. Jamie Green, by the way, has just done another absolute best in the first sector, so Paffett should be an improver. Timo Scheider has just gone top on a 1:18.019, a lap out of nowhere. Gary Paffett will have another lap to squeeze out of this at the end of it, but here he comes.
And Gary Paffett crosses the line. We got his team radio, P5.
Yep, okay, and one more shot. Now, Jamie Green, 2 absolute best. Here he comes. This should be a second pole position of the weekend. Here he comes, an 18.019 to beat. No traffic around him. Here comes Jamie.
And he does it. Provisional pole, a 1:17, and is it the first sub 1:18 time? 1:17.386
of the session, and
that's a big margin.
Yeah, and it's the perfect lap because they were 3 absolute best in each sector, so that is the ultimate lap that he's just put in. And Matthias Ekstrom was a little bit down in sector 1, but he's done a personal best in sector 2, still a 10th off what Jamie Green had already done in that sector. But Matthias Ekstrom, podium yesterday, 3rd spot, needs to get himself higher up than 10th. Here he comes towards the timing line. And he's got another lap to squeeze out of this as well. Molina goes by. Ekstrom goes 2nd fastest in the 17s, a 1:17.906. But it's still a margin away from Jamie Green.
Isn't it just? Jamie Green with a phenomenal lap, 1:17.386. So it's Green, Ekstrom, Timo Scheider, then it's Molina, then Mortara, Farfus, Daniel Juncker-Deyer, and Paffett.
Radio traffic from Matthias Ekstrom.
It is at the moment P2, at the moment P2. You can box.
So they're going to box the car.
Yeah, so he's not going to finish this flying lap, in other words. They don't think the tyres have got another run in them. So Eki will pit at the end of the lap. Maxime Martin here was up in Sector 1, but he's lost a fraction, like 2/10 against the absolute best in Sector 2. What he has got is clear track space. Now, that might just help him. Maxime Martin is currently 12. Incidentally, he's ahead of Bruno Spengler, who's tumbled back down to 13th in this. The best BMW has become Farfus, who we've not really seen in the session, 6th. But Maxime Martin here heading up towards the timing line. There should be an improvement to wring out of this, assuming that the last sector is good, and he will take the checkered flag, so it's his last roll of the dice, and Maxime Martin goes across the line and does improve, and he goes 5th fastest, and that puts him ahead of Farfus, and it puts him the best BMW driver. The Moscow DTM winner last year, first Belgian to win a race in the DTM, and made his name in GT3 BMW Z4s. And if anybody tells you that Maxime Martin is not a star, then you have my permission to batter them with celery, because he absolutely is, and especially in wet weather. Around the Spa 24 Hours in the wet, in the dark, a few years ago, he was just an absolute hero. And on the last lap of the session, he wrings the neck of the BMW. He's the last driver under the 118s, a 17.954, and he goes 5th quickest.
And if anyone is really not liked by David Addison, they're battered by asparagus. So it's Green, Ekstrom, Scheider, Molina. Then we see Maxime Martin. And, wow, what a qualifying session. It all came together right at the very end. But one thing that I need to really press here, Jamie Green, 117.386. Ekstrom, 117.906. That's a big margin.
It is indeed.
Relatively.
Absolutely, especially when we were talking yesterday of 22 cars of 24 covered by 1 second, and we're talking lower down the order with margins of 4 thousandths, 3 thousandths of a second between, for example, Rockefeller and Juncker. It is so close. So to have the best part of 6/10, that is a mighty margin. Now, okay, what does that do on the run to the first corner? Nothing, because you're still going to get the thing off the line very cleanly, haven't you? You still can't carry that 6/10 margin down to turn 1. But what it does prove is that Jamie has got the pace, and it also proves that the weekend is going strongly, because at Hockenheim, the Sunday was a complete mare.
Absolutely. So there is Jamie Green then. Strepsil's obviously doing a great job for him today, aren't they? Another fine performance from him. There is Timo Scheider, who finishes P3.
Good effort, that.
Yes,
excellent,
very.
Because Scheider's been overlooked or forgotten about or anonymous, depending on your point of view, for over a season now, and that gets him back up to where really he should be.
Timo Scheider is a real peddler.
Oh, absolutely.
In every
double
respect.
champion.
I said only yesterday, I stood at the end of the pit lane as he pedalled across on his bicycle. He was blooming quick on that, let alone in a DTM car. Absolutely brilliant. So Green, Ekstrom, Scheider. Then it's Molina.
So top 4 in the race, top 4 in qualifying today. Yes.
Yeah. Maxime Martin, though, good show from him for P5. Then it's Mortara Farfus, Muller. Then it's Rockefeller, Mike Rockefeller. Here's the full list for you now. Jamie Green, Matthias Ekstrom, Timo Scheider, Miguel Molina, then Maxime Martin, Edo Mortara, Augusto Farfus, Nico Muller, Mike Rockefeller, Danny Juncker, P10. Then it's Gary Paffett. Then it is Tom Blomqvist. And I'm looking down that order to see the Mercedes logo.
Yeah, Juncker was in the points for the first time yesterday. Looking further back, Spengler 13th, Wehrlein ahead of Vitois. Robert Wickens, disappointing, only 16th, but he's ahead of the reigning champion there.
Marco Wittmann, who's P17.
Yeah, and so much for Adrian Tournbay, because only 20th in the end, so the extra set of boots didn't do him a huge amount of good.
How critical is that? Max Goertz not putting a time then?
Not, I would have said. It's like Tournbay yesterday. I think, with all due respect to Maximilian Goertz's ability, he was going to be at or near the back anyway.
Right.
So it could be that the car wasn't 100% and or keeping a fresh set of tyres for the race and trying to do something clever on strategy. What he has lost is a little bit of mileage for track knowledge and car experience. But in the grand scheme of things, he'd have been round about the back couple of rows anyway, I reckon. But the real worry for me would have been Tomczyk and Di Resta, 22nd and 23rd. Di Resta ahead of Tomczyk, but that's a long way back for 2 previous champions. We've got 8 champions on the grid, 2 of them 22nd and 23rd of 24 drivers.
That's a fair point. So as we look at some slow-mos then of the top 3 in our qualifying session, that is Matthias Ekstrom, who I have to say I thought was going to get another lap, but clearly the team felt there wasn't the life in the tyre to do that.
There might have been the life in the tyre for the session, but it would be affecting the life for the race.
So it's a strategic call, isn't it?
Yeah, and he's on the front row.
Yes, absolutely. And there is Jamie Green, who, once again, unlike Hockenheim, where he went from hero to zero in terms of performance on track, has done an outstanding job, and still can't stress enough the margin between himself and that man, Matthias Ekstrom. It's a 17.386 playing a 17.906. So brilliant stuff from Jamie Green, who is absolutely on a mission this weekend. And I wonder if he'll transfer his crown from King of Lausitzring to King of Lausitzring.
Could well be, and it's important for Jamie, I think, to prove to Audi that he is still capable of winning races, and perhaps prove to the outside world that he's not just a one-trick pony. He can win at other venues. He has this reputation of being the King of Lausitzring, perhaps fairly, but he can win pretty much anywhere.
And there we see some super shots of his Hoffman Group car, and qualifying then, of course. Double the action in every respect with DTM across race weekend now, with 2 qualifying sessions, 2 races. Expecting a huge crowd here at the Lausitzring to enjoy the DTM race, which comes up in but a couple of hours' time here from the Lausitzring. And it's going to be a Green and Ekstrom front row, as we see the cars all parked up there. And here comes the starting grid in full for you right now for Lausitzring Race 2. Front row then, it is yesterday's victor, Jamie Green, and alongside him in P2 is Matthias Ekstrom.
Third on the grid, a rejuvenated Timo Scheider, and Miguel Molina, who led more laps than anybody in the race yesterday, will start 4th.
The next row sees a fine performance from Maxime Martin in the BMW with Eduardo Mortara alongside him.
Then you get to Augusto Farfus, much better effort than yesterday, ahead of Nico Müller, again in his Audi 8th on the grid.
To P9 sees former champion Mike Rockenfeller, and then the Mercedes of Daniel Juncker-Deyer, P10.
Gary Paffett 11th, with rookie for this year Tom Blomqvist starting 12th for BMW.
Bruno Spengler, P13. Pascal Wehrlein goes from P14.
Disappointing, I would think, that for Wehrlein, but he's ahead of fellow Mercedes drivers Christian Vitoris and Canadian Robert Wickens.
Then we see the current champion, Marco Wittmann, lowly, P17. Antonio Felix da Costa alongside him.
Then it's Lucas Auer, and a disappointing session from Adrian Tombay, who, from more was expected, didn't happen.
And off early in the session for Timo Glock and Paul de Restre. They're P21 and P22.
And Martin Tomczyk at the back of the grid, the slowest of those that set a time. Maximilian Goert not venturing out to do a proper lap time at all. He'll start 24th.
So there we have it, the qualifying session done for the race that comes up in but a while for DTM here at the Lausitzring in the sunshine. The crowd beginning to assemble for what is going to be a longer race this afternoon than the race yesterday, and that is the format, with those first races on a Saturday often being taken place very late in the day, sort of a twilight race, as we see Bruno Spengler and Mike Rockenfeller. A little bit of angst there, was there, do you think?
Possibly a little discussion, maybe one feeling that the other impeded them ever so slightly during that session. Do we have anything about drivers? Yes, Adrian Tombay under investigation for blocking, and he's being reported to the stewards, and Bruno Spengler under investigation for blocking and reported to the stewards. Well, that ties in with what you've just seen Mike Rockenfeller perhaps discussing with him. So clearly there is a feeling that there was a little bit of on-track drama between those two. But it's going to be a cracking race this later on in the day.
Indeed. We'll leave you some of the highlights from qualifying and back with the race live a little bit later this afternoon. From David and I, thank you so much for watching, and stand by. It's going to be a great race.